everybody, I'm Heidi Bennett and welcome to the Vibrant Kitchen. Today we're going to do a jerk style pork roast. We're going to marinate it and then later we'll pop it in the oven and then I'll show you how to pair it with delicious sauteed spinach and garlic. So I take this pork roast. The first thing you want to do with pretty much any meat, start getting some flavor into it. So I'm always going to start with salt. I'm going to salt this whole guy with Diamond Kosher Salt. And so my salt box is missing today because I pulled out this salt from it just to make sure there's no cross-contamination with this raw pork. Nice and generous. This is just going to be penetrating all night long in the fridge. Now I've got a couple of extras, but first let me wash my hands. So I call these my bonus beets. You do not have to use them, but if you happen to have them in the kitchen, I've got Trader Joe's Cuban style citrusy garlic seasoning blend and Trader Joe's Green Goddess seasoning blend. So both of these have citrus in them, some garlic and some other delicious herbs. And so since I have them, might as well get it going. So I'm gonna be generous with this. This is kind of like a dry marinade or a dry rub. I'm gonna pop it all into a bowl. This is a little trick. Just get it right into the bowl and then plop it on top. Okay, on to the marinade. Okay, so here's the marinade for our jerk style pork. I love this because there's not much prep. Because we're gonna blend it in the stick blender, the green onions just get a rough chop. A chop and a plop. We've also got a nice big juicy knob of ginger. You'll just quickly get the skin off there, and then depending on where you get your ginger, like this one's a little more solid. Sometimes they're just so juicy they're almost falling apart. But this one, I'm gonna give it a rough chop to give it a head start here. This recipe calls for 2 jalapenos. Obviously, use 1 if you want a little bit less heat. Now look what's happening. This thing is getting full. So before I get any further, I'm going to add some of the liquid and start blending it. You can use any unflavored vinegar that you like. I often have apple cider vinegar around, so just my common ingredient for vinegar. Some olive oil. Again, all the measurements and the recipe will be below the video. So before we go any further, I'm gonna blend this down a little bit. Obviously, you can use this in a traditional blender as well. All right, so now that we've got a good head start on the blending, I'm gonna throw in the rest of the jalapeno. This recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic, but whoever stops at 2, not me. So my husband and I have a spice drawer where our spices are, like you pull out a drawer and so we're kind of looking down at them. So I took a silver Sharpie and on top went in and titled everything. So like we've got our nutmeg, we've got our allspice. That way you're not pulling out everything and trying to figure out what it is. So that's what we've got going here. So we've got ground Jamaican allspice. Bloop. If you happen to have fresh nutmeg, use that, but this ground nutmeg works great. Some fresh black pepper, a little bit of that salt, and we're back to blending. And as you can see, I really took my time. This isn't gonna be some fancy sauce at the end or anything like that, but we do wanna get everything in there and emulsified. Slow and steady truly wins the race. Okay, so here's the fun part. Did I get every single green onion blendered up in here? Let's find out. Just gonna slowly pour this around the pork on top of its beautiful little fat cap there. It's already been sitting there, well salted, well seasoned, and look at that. Full immersive experience. Okay, so now this baby goes in the fridge overnight. Cover it best you can. I've got a bowl with a lid that's slightly bigger than this that probably would have been ideal, but hey, this looks great for presentation, and overnight all of these beautiful gingery spicy flavors are just infusing this gorgeous roast pork. Well, soon to be roast pork. All right, on to tomorrow. So our pork roast has been marinating overnight, and now you're gonna wanna put your oven to 425. You wanna preheat it to that. And I hear people talk about preheating all the time. You know, that's a common thing for recipes to say preheat the oven. And what I want to make sure you know is that it's important to make sure the whole oven has been at that temperature for a while. So for me, I tend to go 20 or 30 minutes that it's at that 425. And it is, so we're going to get it in the oven. This is our marinated pork roast. I'm gonna try to very gracefully put it on our pre-oiled rack here. And I'm gonna just take off a little bit of this marinade because we've got this gorgeous fat cap and I want that to get an opportunity to get nice and golden brown. So the marinade's really done its job here. This pork roast is about just a little bit over 2 pounds. You can go bigger if you want or smaller. This is just the one they had that looked nice at Encinal Market in Alameda. That's where I get my meats. I'm gonna put the temperature thermometer in here. Get it right into the middle. So we've got the probe thermometer set. I've got my alarm set for it to go off at 140. Then there'll be some carryover up to about 145, which is the sweet spot for a pork roast. And that's it. We're ready to put this baby in the oven. Okay, this baby is ready for her close-up. You're gonna want to wait a minimum of 20 minutes for this to rest. Let the juices redistribute. My roast has some baking twine on it, so I'm also going to be going through and cutting that baking twine off. And I definitely want it to not be screaming hot like it is right now when I do that. Okay, so the string has been pulled off. It's warm, but I can still handle it safely. And I'm going to slice slowly. And when I used the kitchen shears, I went slowly. see it's still lightly pink in here. Still lightly pink inside, but it's perfectly cooked all the way through. This roast is 2 pieces tied together. So as I started cutting, it kind of naturally fell into those 2 pieces. Just like cutting beef, I'm gonna cut slightly on the bias here. So that's against the grain. Feel free to use a fork to stab this, but I just end up using my hand. Take your time, no rush. That fat cap has still there on top with the crust on it. And then some of it has just melted right into this pork. I am not a perfectionist with slices. As you can see, this is what you might call rustic. And that's totally fine. If you want it sliced a little more neatly, have at it. So we've got this beautiful Jamaican style jerk pork. It's got ginger, green onions, and jalapeno in the marinade. And then I've also paired it with this lovely spinach dish that we did on another video in the Vibrant Kitchen. It has lemon and fresh garlic. So both of these are vibrant, super easy to make, and absolutely delicious. Let me know what else you'd like to see in the Vibrant Kitchen. Please subscribe, and ciao for now.